MV3 Traders Futures Trade Radio is brought to you by the Ultimate Trader's Guide, your one-stop shop for the most valuable income-producing information on the internet. Go to ultimatetradersguide.net to learn more. Link in the description below. Alright, what's going on, everybody? Hope everybody had a good weekend. Yesterday I took some time to step away from the gadgets for a while. Refresh, reset. Now we back at it with a fresh week. Should be an interesting week. This is the last week we have for of the year for FOMC stuff. All the Fed mega events. And so today kind of started rollover. It really started last week, but still the volume is still 50-50. So I kind of have to look at the volume of the total today, because just like with the new and if you single out the different contract months between Z and H, the volume looks, it's light. So overall, it's still a low volume day. It was low participation. Sure, a lot of that has to do with the setup for the economic news this week. So leading up to today's RTH, we had a little bit of a climb, and we had a wide, sort of a gap over the weekend. It's a small gap, but some volatility at the open of today's session that created a wide neutral zone. Climbed slightly up to above PR plus 1 into the bull zone, but now we're retracing, refilling this volume gap that I had marked off between just basically 700 and it's gonna call it 680, as far as 688. And that's where we're playing around in that little area now. Sort of a retracement from what took leading up to the bell. Got a lot of MSRP around here. Nice mechanical response off VWAP. Of course, current inventory is off that PR high at 688. Still being mechanical to that inventory area, the inventory zone. Right now, I'm just watching the edges of the shop between that 11,688 zone and I guess supply roughly 712. Bit of a lift of inventory. Also kind of fighting against automation. And with automation being above us, it's like we're trying to look for some cheaper inventory. Slight inventory drop for a response. Got a print there that could potentially turn into a reversal or the setting the base for inventory. Be watching 670 if we continue to search for cheaper inventory. Oh, there's a touch of 670 as we continue to hunt for cheaper inventory. That print ended up being a kind of a marker for some momentum. See how low we go. Back inside is a little bit of negotiating. Another potential reversal. All right, the initial setup of a inventory base. Got this inventory zone between 665 and 660. a extremely mechanical response would be off 665. But if we want to really play this inventory zone, we got until 660. It's what I just said ended up being what they're doing. It played inside of that zone, picked up a little bit more inventory inside of that zone. Could be the initiating of some budgeting. Again, it's a little bit of a supply response, but nothing to really pay attention to yet from my perspective. Previous supply would be at 680, which we got a response. We just saw a response off of 680. Took us back to inventory. And this is the moment to see if we're going to set up shop here. What are we going to do from here? Somewhat of a small 15 to 20 point range. Nice mechanical response off of 665. That inventory zone has become seasoned at this point. It's actually also the main inventory if you're looking at the overnight. Then below that, you got the PR low. That's another supply response. Quick inventory response off of 670. Right now, it's like we're kind of setting up this, what most people will call a a channel basically, but it's a directional channel. but basically where you're lifting supply and inventory. There we go, continuing to lift supply without a whole lot of momentum. So let's see if we can go back down and lift the inventory again. Still waiting for a setup that I want. This tight box that they're budgeting inside of hasn't given me the kind of signal where I would want to participate. So they did lift that inventory slightly above 670. On the last few seconds, we've kind of closed the window on this budgeting phase. We're starting to close the window. Should break us out into a direction. Have to wait and see which direction they want to go in. We are back inside of automation. Automation is kind of serving as supply. And we kind of took the ladder to automation. So the typical response would be to look for a breakout short, which can be used for either direction. All right, so we got some momentum lifting that supply. Now, a lot of people that talks about, that I've heard talk about, are use the term supply and inventory. When things like when price starts to sell off, and especially when it does it with momentum, typically you'll hear that referred to as we've ran out of supply or they've ran out of supply. I also kind of see this as a point of running out of supply, but where they, instead of looking for it instead of going back into inventory, they find a supply at higher prices, which gives you your momentum, because you ran out of that order matching where you was doing it before. So now there's how they set it up. Well, there's orders all over the board, so they go and look for those orders at higher prices instead of going back and searching for cheaper inventory. This is why I kind of use the perspective of wholesale, and I've used those terms from as a wholesaler, where I'm looking for more supply or I'm looking for more inventory. I'm not running out of anything because I'm playing what's there, so there's nothing to run out of. There's always other participants that are participating, so from that perspective it's abundant. However, so when I'm as a wholesaler, my perspective is to go and seek out that abundance and seek out where the supply and that inventory is. So we're starting to find some inventory, means some supply off of the, near the session high, around PR +1. As a general reference, looking at 720 as a supply zone. Coming down to the wire for me, it could end up being a no trade day unless I get a great setup. So looking at 700 as inventory. Nice hold number. Plus that's what we saw in a quick inventory response about a minute or two ago. There's a response off of 700. Didn't really take us far yet. They're kind of using that 700 to look for some cheaper inventory, and then one that's too mechanical to that whole number. Also have automation down there right below it. A bit of negotiating here. It was a little tight budgeting box down here, but it's just about 10 points, which is relatively tight, between 700 and 710. tell the participation is extremely low because I'm looking at this from a ticks perspective. And it's taking a lot of time for these orders to trickle in. Very light order flow. So I looked at that quick inventory that I mentioned before. When I initially looked at it, I saw it as being like a minute or two from what would, you know, how many ticks it would take to show me what I was structurally seeing. Usually that would happen within a couple seconds, or maybe like a couple, just a couple seconds, a couple minutes, 1 minute or two. But it actually ended up being done over several minutes. So that participation, I'm still watching this participation as being extremely low. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the rollover and like everything else that I mentioned before. So I'm just gonna go ahead and call today a no trade day. Looks like I got a setup happening now, but it's about time to prep for the second half. Yep. I already took my mind out of it, so whatever. Tomorrow's another day. Get it tomorrow. Since I've been ready to pull the trigger, that's the only setup that I got, but that I wanted to execute on. I'm about to go silent on the mic for a minute, and I'll see y'all after the second half. MV3 Traders Futures Trade Radio is brought to you by the Ultimate Trader's Guide, your one-stop shop for the most valuable income-producing information on the internet. Go to ultimatetradersguide.net to learn more. Link in the description below. All right, welcome back to the second half of Futures Trade Radio with Trader Triggers. So in today's Trader Triggers, what I want to talk about is I saw this question posted on Reddit where the person asked, what they should learn or study to become a full-time day trader. So I thought this would be a good one to talk about. And this one, like stuff like this kind of grinds my gears, so to speak, when I see it's not the question that kind of rubs me the wrong way. What it is the responses to it, because usually when people post these kind of questions on forums and like other places on the internet, what ends up happening, they just get a bunch of negative projections from random people on the internet, that clearly don't really care about helping others. They just are, or maybe they think they're being helpful, with their blind negativity. I don't know what it is, but it's just, it's a weird type of thing to witness when you see someone out there, genuinely looking for, some sort of help. And then you get people just not even really trying to understand where the person is coming from or anything like that. They just want to say some random stuff based off of just what they believe. But anyway, just kind of wanted to had to get that off my chest, that little vent. But anyway, so I'm not here to talk about that part of it. What I'm here to do is really kind of give an answer to the question from my perspective in a general sense for, what I would recommend as, something to, or the things to study and to learn and to how to prepare yourself for full-time day trading. And, I kind of have some experience with, so now I'm like, at this point I have a job, right? But I'm day trading, I'm day trading the same way that I would do it as if this was my only source of income. So I can kind of technically look at what I'm doing as full-time day trading. But I did have a time when I was living in the Philippines where this is all I did. So I was full-time day trading then. So I'm using all of that experience and all of that, everything that I gained from those periods of my life through my trading journey to answer this question here. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. So the first thing that I would recommend to learn or study or to be aware of is just yourself. Like that's going to be the primary thing that you want to have awareness to and have a deep understanding of, throughout your trading journey, your business career, whatever word you want to attach to trading. Self is going, in my opinion, should always be the central focus point. And like you always want to be looking at yourself, just getting to know yourself as much as you can. But times like when things are off from your normal routine, like say you had a significant loss in the family, or you're going through, some kind of financial struggle, or something is off outside of your normal routine, that you're experiencing something outside of your typical routine, especially if it triggers some special emotions within you. These can kind of skew what you see as your response to, or how you're kind of judging yourself or how you're viewing yourself, right? And the responses that you get as you're out, trying to do things. So let's say if you're trying to you're trading from within, you're doing it from who you are, right? But then you have a significant loss in the family. Well, you may think that you're paying attention to your awareness and that you're paying attention to yourself and you're doing all the things to make sure you show up the right way. But because your energy is off because of this loss, once you go back and you view your session in hindsight, you can see that you wasn't as focused. You could see that you wasn't as focused or that, you know, you had some sort of old beliefs or whatever, something that came in and that had you trading outside of what you should have been trading in. So that's, you know, that goes along with getting to know yourself as much as you can, because you have to, it takes a keen level of awareness to be able to realize when little things like that, or, you know, significant things like that, can slightly throw you off the, you know, the nuances of, you know, those type of situations, and trying to trade under those situations, right? So you also want to, so specifically in terms of self, some things you want to pay close attention to is your relationship with money. You know, how do you feel about money? Do you have any negative thoughts or feelings, or any, like, have you been taught anything like, you know, money doesn't grow on trees and stuff like that? You know, are you holding on to beliefs and stuff where you're not creating the most inviting, you know, environment for money to come into your life, right? So you want to look at your relationship with money. Along those same lines, you want to look into your risk tolerance. How do you feel about taking risk? You also want to look into, you know, how do you take judgment from others? So do you need your whole family or your mom or your dad to support your trading business before you even really put your all into it? You know, if someone that you care about, or someone that you don't care about, someone that you don't even know, can say something that affect what you do in your own personal life or with trading, you want to look into stuff like that. Also, that goes along with what motivates you. You know, how are you affected by the opinions of others? What drives you? Right? So do you, like, also you want to definitely look into stuff like, what does it take for you to do what you're supposed to be doing? So, like, do you need to have your back against the wall before you start doing the minor things that you're supposed to be doing, like reviewing your trading sessions, right? Reviewing your trades, journaling. Do you got to have a significant event happen in your life before you start to journal? Or do you just do that when everything as a normal practice within your, you know, everyday life? Or, like, do you need someone constantly reminding you of what you're supposed to be doing? Like, do you need that coach or that other person that's always telling, hey, did you review your trades today? Did you go over your strategy? Did you look at this? Did you look at that? Are you that type of, you know, how do you, what drives you as a person, as an individual? You want to look at all of these things, because these are the things that's going to take you, that's going to keep you consistent, which you're going to definitely need if you're trying to day trade full time. And, you know, with that, you want to see how you're measuring, how you measure up against those things, against those trading essentials, i.e., you know, consistency, discipline, focus, you know, things like that. These are the things that you want to do while you're learning yourself, are the things that you want to focus on while you're learning yourself, and, you know, really getting to know yourself on the deepest level that you possibly can. All right, so now that you have a understanding of yourself, a decent understanding of yourself, and this is a continual process. Nothing that I'm saying here is going to be a one and done thing. This is something that you continually do before you, like, when you're trying to prepare to be a full-time day trader, when you're transitioning to be a full-time daytime day trader, and when you are a full-time day trader. So another thing that I would recommend to study is business, right? Like how to run and operate a business, common business practices. You definitely want to look into, you know, like risk assessment, how businesses go about assessing risk, and how they go about like keeping their statistics and paying attention to their numbers. It's like, that's going to be a huge one when you're new at this and you're trying to transition into full-time day trading, because you want to have an understanding of what you're actually doing, and be able to analyze that stuff and see, you know, what you're doing right and whatever you need to be, what you could potentially need to tweak. So for stuff like that, while we're on that topic, there's, several different software out there. Like you can, for instance, there's TradesViz and there's TraderView, two that I have used, just a couple that I have used. But you want to get a full statistical breakdown. What these softwares or what these apps will do is they will give you a full statistical breakdown of your executions. But the key thing around this is you got to understand that when you're reviewing your numbers and all your execution, like when you're reviewing those statistics, what you also want to pay attention to, going back to self, is what produced those numbers. So when you got your setup, did you trade it perfectly? That gave you those numbers. So you want to keep those things in mind, because you can be looking at your numbers, but if you didn't trade your numbers perfectly, that's going to kind of skew things. So you can't really, you got to keep those things in mind before you start making changes, because you could be making changes to your mistakes. Like, so for instance, let's just say you have this, you looked at your numbers, and then that led you to conclude that you don't do so well trading ES versus NQ. Or maybe you conclude that your strategy doesn't work so well at certain times of the day. So for example, like the first 30 minutes of the open. So if you're just looking at the numbers, you can come to those conclusions. But if you really look into it and how did you perform during that first 30 minutes of RTH? Or what beliefs do you have about NQ versus ES that's making you, or that's leading to you trading ES not so well as you trade NQ, right? So it's key to also analyze things like your beliefs, your focus, your feelings, all of that stuff around trading these different things are during certain times of the day. Like with times of the day, how much sleep did you get the night before? Or were you distracted by external things, like you have family members, around you talking or whatever, right? Or do you have outside noise that's distracting you during those times, right? So you want to look at all of this stuff with your statistics. That'll help you, fine tune your business for when you're ready to do it full time. Another thing that you want to go to along with statistics, you want to make sure that you're focused on, or that you learn how to do accounting, how to, keep track of all of your results, especially when it comes down to taxes. And then you also want to look at how to incorporate, because maybe you want to do that for your taxes, which also feeds into journaling. You want to look into journaling, because you can look at journaling like having a business, to where you're having business meetings, right? You want to look at journaling to like business meetings. And when you're journaling, you're basically having a business meeting with yourself. You're reviewing, what's going well in the business, what you can work on improving in the business, things like that, right? Now, two other things that I would recommend learning and getting to understand. One of those is marketing, and the other one is market cycles. Now, marketing, in terms of business, I think, it's helpful, but you don't necessarily need to know it, right? It's not high on my list of recommendations, but it's really helpful to know. And it helps me a lot to understand marketing from a business perspective, because what happens with marketing and business, I've also see in these charts, right? And then you also want to understand market cycles, because, every economy, all things have cycles. So you want to understand the cycles of whatever you're trying to trade. Right. So that's just a, brief little breakdown of what you want to study in relation to business that you can use for your full-time day trading business. You also want to look into Another thing you want to learn is how to determine proper risk management and how to develop a risk management plan. I mentioned risk assessment earlier from the business perspective, so you can use what you learned for how businesses assess their risk, and you can apply that to your business of day trading. Right, so understanding the risk assessment process that businesses use to mitigate their risk can help you figure out how to develop your risk management plan for your trading business. So when you're assessing your risk, you'll want to have a deep understanding of the mechanics of the market that you intend to trade. For example, if you're trading, like let's just say for instance corn futures, you'll want to fully understand the tick and point value, as well as the increment value of the ticking points, right? Because that's going to help you determine how you can, how much risk you can take on and how you can structure your risk in relation to how much capital you have to trade. And if your strategy that you currently are planning to use, if that's going to be sufficient for that, right? Or if you need to make any tweaks to that strategy, and stuff like that. You also want to learn the personality of what you plan to trade, which is going to help you define how you determine risk, right? Around all of its, around its typical patterns, right? So I kind of emphasize the you part there, because it's not about what I see or what I think, let's say about NQ's volatility. It's about your read and how that fits into your schedule, your plan, and your strategy with the available capital that you have to trade with. It's interesting that I recently heard someone broadcast through their YouTube channel that, if you don't plan on trading the quote unquote news, what they call the news, right? Which is referring to specifically the scheduled economic events, that take place every week, right? Basically what they were saying was you'll want to be flat, and they were just saying this as a general projection, that you want to be flat about 15 to 30 minutes before and after all these news events. Well, that could be true for some people. That was true for him. That's why he was saying it. But you may not need that much time if you're going, or you may need that much time if you're going for the bigger intraday swings. But if you're scalping, right, and you're holding a majority of your trades for maybe a minute or two or a couple of seconds, that's going to be a lot of time for you to try to be, avoiding that you, that's going to be a lot of time for you to be just sitting on the sidelines, which could lead to things like FOMO. Remember, so you got to remember, if you just, decided to be a scalper, you did that for a reason. And it should say a lot about your personality. Which, your personality may not be aligned with a practice that has you sitting around on your hands for hours just to wait for, one opportunity or two, right? So if that doesn't fit your personality, then that's going to be bad advice for you. So that just, brought that into my mind. But, I kind of wanted to, talk on that as that just hit me. But anyway, moving on. So when you're trying to come into, you're trying to build your risk management plan, I think that screen time is going to have, or for me personally, screen time has had the greatest impact on designing, my risk management plan. But if you're just starting this, you can also look at others. Even if you've been doing this for a while, you can also look at how others apply risk management. You can get ideas from them, and then you can try out the methods that, that makes the most sense to you. And you can make any tweaks that you see necessary. It's a trial and error type of thing, right? Something that, again, that's something that you should always be, something that I would recommend to always be learning and, welcoming to new information. All right, so moving forward, another thing that I recommend is to look into having additional streams of income. Since you've already taken the time to learn about business, and since you're learning about business, you might as well use what you learn to create a side hustle or start a small business. If having a 9-to-5 is not your thing. And since I mentioned this question about being a full-time day trader, typically when you think about full-time day trading, you're not also thinking about having a full-time job. I kind of referenced my situation as being an exception to that, but so we're just talking about if you're just trying to full-time day trade and you don't want to have a regular job. So I would highly recommend, this is one of the main things that I learned when I did it when I was trading in the Philippines, which actually helped me having other sources of income, is one thing that I would recommend is to have an additional stream of income, like another business that you do on the side. And typically it's best that it's not, related to trading or investing. Like I see some people, they may be day trading and then they also may be swing trading options on stocks or whatever. But at the core of all of that is these financial markets. So unless you're like hedging with that, when one thing goes bad, it can be likely for another thing to go bad. So if you're not prepared to to handle a certain market cycle, and that's affecting your day trading, unless you have this detailed hedging plan that you're using when you're trading options and all that stuff, or maybe you're trading Forex or whatever. If you're not prepared for this new cycle, when your day trading is affected, the other parts of your participation in investing can be affected. Right? So that's why I recommend having your additional income as something outside of trading, so that one thing doesn't affect the other, and these are just two separate things that you can rely on this other thing that's not related to trading at all, right? Where you have income that can at least support your lifestyle. Now, as kind of an exception to that, if you're creating additional income by teaching or by sharing what you learn through your day trading journey, right? It's kind of what I do also. So I mentioned that a job is not part of this additional income, but the closest thing to that could be, doing freelance work on the side of your trading. Also something that I do. I kind of have a freelance type of, small side hustle to where I edit videos for other people. So, I'm recommending this because other streams of income gives you peace of mind, removing potential anxiety when your trading is not working out so well or you're off your game. And it helps you focus on what's going to keep you consistent instead of being motivated by the results in your P&L. And I also kind of mentioned market cycles before, but the last little recommendation that I would have in this would be to study those market cycles and study different market cycles and see how that stuff affects your strategy. How does it affect your mentality? How does it affect how you show up, right? How does it make you feel when everything is going up and we're in this nice little bullish phase, and then all of a sudden we start to flip and you start to see a lot of red on the charts? How do you feel when you look at a chart and you see that red on the chart, right? So I recommend that you study market cycles and understand really what you're trying to do when you're studying these market cycles, and understanding that everything is temporary. So the main goal with studying market cycles is understanding that, and to see if you can survive through these different market cycles. So if you can survive through these different if you can survive through these different market cycles, that'll be a good indication that you're ready to day trade full time. So kind of as a recommendation for where to get started, Ray Dalio, he's produced a lot of work on the cyclical nature of economies and markets. And there's a book that he wrote, I think his recent book was The Changing World Order, which is I saw as a good read, where he goes in on the global cycles throughout history, right? So that's just just a quick little recommendation. I'm not paid to say that or anything like that, but that's one area that you can look at to study these market cycles, because this is one of the things that you may have the most questions about studying, because there's not a lot of people talking about the different cycles of anything really. And there's not a whole lot of people really going into to good detail about the different cycles of these financial markets. It's something that typically you have to experience for yourself, with the exception of Ray Dalio, who he kind of focuses on that, and he shares his findings and his discovery about different market cycles throughout history. He's based his whole career around the different cycles of economies, of cultures, and all all that stuff, right? So those are just a brief overview of the things that I would recommend if you're trying to prepare yourself to become a full-time day trader. So let's go over some don'ts. I do have a couple of don'ts here, and these are just my recommendations. You can do what you want to do. I highly encourage you to do what you want to do. So if these don'ts don't make sense to you, take whatever makes the most sense to you. Well, and I don't have that many of them. So one don't I have is, don't pay attention to other people's journey to becoming a full-time trader. Right? It reminds me of the quote, "Comparison is the thief of joy." I've been really loving that quote lately. Right? But that's their journey, right? It's not yours. It could detour you off your path. You can end up, comparing yourself to what others are doing, or how others achieve whatever they try to achieve. You can end up, chasing what you see from them, or your perspective of what you see from them, which takes you off of focusing on the path that you have for you, that's going to lead you to achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve, right? So you want to be kind of, when you're learning from others, you want to be kind of careful of how, what information or what you're taking in from from other people's journeys. Also, another don't that I have is, don't put your whole life savings into this, or other people's money, right, that you care about disappointing, like family, right? So if, let's say, you want to get started full-time day trading, and all you have in your account, you look at your account, you have like $5,000 to $10,000, and you want to try to just become a full-time day trader off of that money that you have in your account. If you come into a cycle that you haven't been, that you're not prepared to, or if you come into a cycle that you're not prepared for, then you can end up, when that money starts to, become smaller and smaller in your trading account, then that can lead you into doing things, being emotionally, emotionally triggered to do things outside of what you're supposed to be doing, right? Outside of being consistent, outside of being disciplined, right? Outside of having the appropriate focus that you're supposed to have, right? So, this is one of the cliches that I hear, a lot in this business, is that, and one that I actually agree with, and I also project, is to trade with money that you don't care about losing, right? Because that's going to allow you to trade freely. It's not about you want to lose that money. that's going to allow you to trade free and focus on the things that you want to, that you should be doing. That's going to help you be consistent. And this one, I mentioned this one. I started us off with this one, with this don't, or it's not really a don't, but the thing that grinds my gears a lot is the absolute worst thing that you can do is start asking random people off the internet what they think about, you trading full time, or what they think about your trading, because they don't know you. And what I see majority of the time is people just start responding to the question without even understanding where that question is coming from, or without understanding the person that's asking that question. Now, that's just random people off the internet, but you also want to be careful with friends and family, because they care about you and they don't want to see you struggle, and they don't want to see you go through what they perceive as failure, right? They want you to win, but they want you to win with as little resistance as possible. And from my personal experience and what I've heard from a lot of other traders is, this is not their environment to be trying to win without resistance. You're going to get resistance. Well, let me just speak from my own personal experience. I had to go through a lot of resistance to get to where I am today. Now, in the end, it was all 100% worth it, but it didn't look good when I was going through it, right? Now, luckily for me, I don't have family and friends that are trying to, speak negatively on the things that I want to do. I'm kind of blessed in that way to where I have a lot of support around me, but everybody doesn't have that, that situation. So you want to be careful about, those types of things and how you expose yourself to other people's opinions, even your friends and family, right? Because at the end of this day, this business is about you and the greatness that you have within, because great trades come from within. So these are just some things that I recommend for learning, or recommend to learn and study if you're interested in, day trading full time. These are just, a quick little list of rundown. This conversation could actually go on for hours, but I don't want to make this a whole, multiple hour type thing. So if you have some ideas, or you got some ideas that you think I left out, and you're listening to this after the fact, go ahead and leave that in the comment section. Also, if you're listening to the podcast version of this, by the way, this is also I put these on your favorite podcast platforms, lightly edited, to kind of enhance the listening experience. But if you're listening to the podcast version of this, feel free to come on over to YouTube and leave that comment of what you would recommend for full-time day trading, or you can, review it wherever you're listening to it at. So Yoga Gangster asks, would I recommend AMP platform, Quant Tower as a platform for beginners to start, since it's free? So in terms of platforms, I don't have a lot of experience with Quant Tower, but the way that I see these trading platforms is just, they're all basically, okay, in terms of you using them, they're all basically the same. So, while TradingView may be a simple platform to use, there is a period where you have to learn how to use TradingView. So it's the same thing with Quant Tower. It just comes down to, if Quant Tower makes sense for you, then if that's something that you want to start trading with, then just start trading with it. Learn how it works and learn the different things that you can do with it. And you can start. So you can start whatever platform that you're driven to start with. And then later on, if you figure out that, maybe another platform is better, you can easily shift over to that new platform. But, it's as with that new platform, you're still going to have to learn how to use that new platform. So you can use any platform. Basically what I'm saying is you can use any platform that you want to use, right? You just got to learn that platform. And they all have the same basic elements of trading, which is you're going to buy, you're going to sell. You got a different type of limit orders. Now, some may have different types of orders that you can use, But if you're just starting trading and you're new to this, you want to get, kind of efficient at the regular, buy limit, buy market, the market limit and all those different types of order types. You want to get used to those and how those operate and how those functions before you start trying to go into the more advanced, quote unquote advanced type of trading. All right. So if Quant Tower or whatever other platform makes sense to you, then use it. It can be a good one for you to use if that's the one that you want to use. You just got to learn it. Right. So appreciate that question, Yoga Gangster. And with all that being said, this is going to conclude the Trader Triggers for today. I hope everybody have a good rest of your session, a good rest of your week. And I'm going to see y'all, and I'll see y'all tomorrow for the continuation of Trademas. Until then, trade it easy.